Mr. Chair. Good morning sa ating mga fellow representatives, pati rin po sa Office of the Ombudsman. Mr. Chair, gusto ko munang bigyan ng context yung aking tanong. Mr. Chair, may mga rights defenders, lawyers, alternative media, civic leaders, at maging isang think tank na nag-file ng administrative and criminal cases with the Office of the Ombudsman against several ex-officio members of the NTF-ELCAC. First to file their complaint noong February 2020 ay accused si Major General Parlade Jr., former PCOO Yusek Badoy, and former National Security Advisor Esperon for violating Republic Act 6770 for committing unreasonable, unfair, oppressive, or discriminatory acts. Also, Mr. Chair, on June 2020, Major General Parlade was also filed with a case because of violating the anti-graft law and the administrative code. Meron pa, Mr. Chair, December 2020, lawyers naman po nag-file din ng administrative complaint against Mr. Parlade, Ms. Badoy, and Mr. Esperon. Also, 2 days after, from human rights groups, nag-file din po ng criminal and administrative case against Mr. Esperon, Mr. Parlade, Ms. Badoy, and then PCOO ASEC Mocha Yuson for violating Republic Act 9851 in relation to the principle of distinction under international humanitarian law. Also, Mr. Chair, December 2020, tarin, administrative complaint against former NICA Director General Monteagudo, former Defense Secretary Lorenzana, and former Interior Secretary Anyo for violating the Code of Conduct and ethical standards for public officials and employees. Also, Mr. Chair, still December 2020, alternative media nag-file din ng complaint against Mr. Parlade, Ms. Badoy, and former NTF-ELCAC Executive Director Allen Capuyan. Ang basis naman po ay Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, pati din yung Code of Conduct. In summary, Mr. Chair, 6 administrative complaints from various organizations and 2 criminal complaints pending before the Office of the Ombudsman. May we ask, Mr. Chair, ano na po ang status ng 6 na administrative complaints and 2 criminal cases? Since ang last po doon sa ating na-enumerate ay na-file pa noong December 2020.
Honorable Chair, Your Honors, yung tanong po ay sa dami ng kasong yon, hindi ko alam kung anong status. But if the Honorable Congressman is referring to those cases against Parlade, Badoy, et al. Esperon, with respect to the red tagging, those cases were already dismissed. Sa kadahilanan po na wala naman pong batas na nagbabawal sa red tagging. In the absence of a law, we cannot arrogate unto ourselves by saying na nag-violate ka ng red tagging. Red tagging po pinag-uusapan, but I am not really sure if this is the one that is being referred to by the Honorable Congressman Manuel. So, I will appreciate kung bibigyan po ninyo kami ng listahan, and I will inform you the status of those cases.
Mr. Chair, bahagi po ng complaint against these individuals ay yung ginawa nga nilang red tagging. Tayo din naman, Mr. Chair, we filed a bill actually na gusto natin ay ma-criminalize ang red tagging and maprotektahan lahat ng mga defenders natin, lahat ng mga merong advocacy, at dapat ay safe sila, hindi sila nasasubject sa mga discriminatory na mga acts. In the absence of that law at this moment, Mr. Chair, kaya ang na-cite natin ay yung ibang mga batas, na actually ay pwedeng maging basis para mapanagot ang mga individual na ito. Mr. Chair, since hindi pa nakatanggap ng official communication ang mga nag-file ng mga complaints against these people, may we request the Office of the Ombudsman to furnish our office, pati din yung mga nag-file mismo, na mabigyan po sila ng written na kopya ng dismissal para po on record ay mapanghawakan po natin iyon. Can the office commit to that, Mr. Chair?
If Your Honor could please give us a copy of those cases, we assure you that we will furnish you the status of those cases. The earliest would be this afternoon. Pero sinisiguro ko po sa inyo na kung mga kasong yun ay na-dismiss na, I am sure na yung mga complainant ay nabigyan na ng kopya. Ngayon, doon sa puntos na dahil nga walang red tagging, pa-file mo ng kaso ng violation ng Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Para lang po yun yung nagpalusot tayo Diba? Ito yung tinatawag na yung palusot Kung sa sibuyas, ito yung palusot na pagtatanim ng sibuyas o ani. Just like in the violation of the dangerous drugs law, marami po nagpa-file sa amin ng Section 3E. Ang pinakapunot dulo po ay drugs. So wala ho kami jurisdiction doon. So ginagamit, may mga pagkakataon po, ginagamit ang ombudsman. Sana wag naman po ganun. Dahil hindi naman po ang ombudsman karakarakan mag-action sa inyong mga kaso na wala naman talagang kinalalaman. Sa kadahilanan lang, magpa-file kayo ng kaso dahil ang respondent ay isang sikat na tao, mataas ang posisyon sa gobyerno. Binibigyan din po namin ng pansin yung mga kaso na pinafile ng mga mahihirap. Binibigyan po namin ng pansin yung mga kaso na karapat dapat bigyan. Pero kung papalusutan kami na red tagging ang rason, pero sasabihin hindi, nag-violate ka ng Section 3E, because Section 3 says undue injury to the government or the individual, yan ang cause ng undue injury na yon. Kung red tagging, wala akong binayolate na batas. Yun lang po. I would appreciate if the Honorable Congressman Manuel could give us a list of those cases, and we will immediately. I'll call the office now and give us a status of those cases, and I assure you, before the end of the day, you'll have a copy of the status of those cases.
Mr. Chair, gusto lang po nating mag-respond doon sa remark na nagpapalusot lang po yung mga nagpa-file ng mga administrative and criminal complaints. Mr. Chair, para po sa enlightenment ng ating mga kapwa civil servants and public officials, Mr. Chair, yung retagging po hindi lang po yan basta salita at hindi po naghahanap lang ng kung ano-anong dahilan para magkaso. Mr. Chair, meron na po talagang nangyaring mga masamang bagay dahil sa red tagging. Meron po, nakaka-affect po ito ng pag-perform ng ating mga public officials at kahit yung mga civil society organizations natin, Mr. Chair, na-hamper po yung pag-perform nila ng duty nila to pursue whatever advocacy that they have in line with our laws. Tapos, Mr. Chair, meron na ring mga na-red tag na napatay na nga, no? Dahil sa ganong threat, no, na nagiging epekto sa kanila dahil sa pagre-red tag coming mismo mula sa mga government officials. So, Mr. Chair, ang dating kasi kung kinukonsente natin ito sa pamahalaan, edi short of saying na we are enabling red tagging, no? Kaya habang syempre mainam na meron na rin talagang batas eventually on red tagging, sa ngayon, Mr. Chair, kita naman natin damage has been done, no? At nakakalungkot isipin na yung mga buhay na nawala because of red tagging, yung mga hindi na makapagpatuloy, no, whether in government man or hindi, mahihirapan na sa kanilang mga gusto sanang gawin, no, hindi na, mahirap na pong ibalik yun, Mr. Chair. Kaya sana mas maging proactive tayo when it comes to this matter. And sana po hindi din po napagbabangga, no, na may mga kaso daw na para sa mga mahirap, ganyan. Yung mga rights defenders po natin, yung mga people's lawyers natin, yan din po ay merong mga ginagawa para sa mga mahihirap. In fact, no, yung pag-defend nila sa mga magsasaka, sa mga mangingisda, sa mga manggagawa, part din po yan ng gusto nating sama-samang pagtulong sa mga mahihirap. So, sana po hindi pinagbabangga, hindi pinagko-compete yung mga kaso. Kasi kung lahat naman po, Mr. Chair, agrabyado, lahat po ay dapat nating tulungan at dapat ay may hustisya po para sa kanila. Yun na muna, Mr. Chair. Maraming.
Pag nire-require niyo po ang isang ahensya ng gobyerno na may confidential fund na mag-submit ng resibo, ay hindi na ho confidential fund yun. Kasi
Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang pong gusto ko lang pong doon. Kasi nire-require po yun ng joint circular. So hindi po pwedeng kasi meron po tayong joint circular 2015 regarding sa confidential fund. Pero hindi po nakakatawa na sabihin natin na hindi tayo nagsasubmit ng mga resibo. So I beg to disagree po, no. Kailangan din natin mag-follow po doon sa JC 2015.
Pagpaunmanhin po ninyo, pero mula po na ako'y maging ombudsman, wala po nagsabi sa akin na mag-submit po kami ng resibo dahil paano ko po re-resibuhan ang isang intelligence officer na sinuyo ko tingnan ang isang bagay o isang kaso. Ano ho yung resibo ilalagay ko doon? Paano ho ililiquidate sa akin ng intel officer? If I get a safe house, magtataka pa ho kayo, ba't ako kumuha ng safe house? Baka naman yung safe house na yun ay hindi totoong safe house, kundi motel. I mean, I really don't know. But if that is the case, na pag-uusapan po natin, pag-aawayan natin ng confidential fund, then, alisin nyo sa budget namin yung confidential fund. As I said, we can survive. I can continue investigation cases. We just smile at my friends at the ISAF and some other investigation agencies. Madali lang po yun eh. I call my friends in the provinces, I call some police officers in the provinces, I ask them for their support. Kung kailangan mag-utos sila ng tao para i-verify kung totoo ito, din doon po kami gumagastos ng transportation expense ng pagkain ng tao. So paano ililiquidate po sa amin yon? Paano kami mag-submit ng resibo? Napakahirap po yata noon na mag-submit kami ng resibo. At siguro wala namang papayag din sa amin na intel officer na pag binigyan ko ng 50,000 pesos o i-liquidate mo sa akin, na tuwing sakay niya ng taxi, kung siya ay may, which I did it before, na pinamanmanan ako isang empleyado ng ombudsman, pinasundan ko, abay, siguro mahihirapan yung intel officer na every now and then, bibigay sa akin yung mga resibo ng gasolina. At pag niliquidate ko yung resibo ng gasolina na yon as my own expense, baka sabihin ng COA, hindi pwede kasi hindi ka pwede mag-claim ng gasoline expense because you have your transportation allowance. So I don't think a receipt is important. What is needed is that we make a certification, we issue a certification to the effect that we have spent the confidential fund for purposes of investigation of cases. Bakit po kami nakakatipid? Noong araw po, kuminsan lumalakad po na investigador 5. Yung 5 pong yun, binawasan ko. Kasi ang aking filosofiya, kung kayang gawin ng isang Little Indian, yung gawain ng 10 Little Indian, bakit hindi ba nga ba gawin ng isang Little Indian? So just like when I was investigating the case of the onions, yung mga sibuyas, may mga isang tao kung pinalalakad o 2. Kung medyo delikado yung lugar na pupuntahan, 3 sila akong pinapupunta. Yun po ang, pero hindi ko sinasabi sa kanila, magbigyan nyo ako ng resibo. Kasi pag sila'y pupunta rin doon, mayroon mga binabayaran din sila mga tao na sinusuyo yung tao na to gather more evidence for us. Marami pong salamat.
Yes, thank you very much po doon sa explanation. Siguro with due respect to our ombudsman, hindi po ito nakakatawa, no? At hindi ito pwedeng sabihin na walang resibo dahil taon-taon po nakikita natin tumataas ang confidential fund. So kung ganyan po yung sinasabi ninyo, so baka ma-encourage ang mga lahat ng government offices na gumamit na lang ng confidential fund kung wala naman itong resibo. Kaya nga po meron tayong circular na dapat pong sundan ng ating lahat ng mga agencies. And ako personally, kung talagang mga investigation, yung ombudsman, pwede rin tayo dapat na mag-ano ng confidential, pero dapat with the proper liquidation ng mga ganito. Kasi kung sasabihin niyo na kahit wala na kaming confidential fund, so it's all right, mailagay yan doon sa dapat na paglagyan, katulad na sinasabi niyo kanina, and other services. But to remind the ombudsman, dapat po maging observe natin yung due diligence at saka dun sa paggamit nitong confidential fund. So yun lang po. At saka yung savings, pag sinasabi po natin na savings, yun nga po yung ginagawa, minsan nagdududa kami, maraming mga PS na hindi naman nagagamit, nagsisave sila, and so on. Kaya dapat magamit po ito. So, yung next po ay tungkol doon sa Memorandum Circular number 1 as regards to the submission ng mga SALN. So, nagsasubmit po ba ng SALN ang Presidente at Vice President?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you po.
Yes, Your Honor. The President, I think, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte has submitted their
Okay,
SALN.
thank you for the information. Doon po sa Memorandum Circular number 1, Section 6, lifestyle check, even without SALN. So, how often po nagko-conduct ang ombudsman ng mga lifestyle check po? So, have you conducted lately ng mga lifestyle check po sa ating mga official and government employees po?
With all due respect, Your Honor, mayroon lang po sana akong gustong itanong eh. Mayroon po bang batas na nag-require na mag-conduct ng lifestyle check? Nagkakandak po kami ng lifestyle check in connection with cases that we're investigating. Nagkakandak po kami ng lifestyle check pag file ng kaso for unexplained wealth. Nagkakandak po kami ng lifestyle check nang hindi na namin kailangan i-publicize pa that we're conducting a lifestyle check on this particular government official or employee. But the only question is, what law has been violated? The law on lifestyle check, where there is none? Or shall we proceed to forfeiture when we find that the properties of this particular government official or employee is not commensurate to his salary? Which again is debatable. Marami po sa ating maraming pera o maraming ari-arian na maring not commensurate sa kanyang income. Pero lingid sa ating kaalaman, yung asawa ay nagdinegosyo. Lingid sa ating kaalaman ay nagbabayad naman pala ng tamang buwis. But, para sabihin na nagla-lifestyle check kami at ito ay ipangalandakan namin sa publiko, hindi po namin gagawin yon. We will conduct our investigation discreetly. I must admit we are now conducting some lifestyle check on some government officials, but I cannot say sino po sa kanila.
Yes, thank you po. Hindi ko naman po sinasabi na sasabihin niyo. Tinatanong ko lang po kung nagaganap
I'd like to
yung...
remind
Yes, thank you,
Congresswoman
Mr. Chair. Last po ito.
Okay.
So hindi ko naman po sinasabi na sabihin niyo kung sino po yung nila lifestyle check niyo po. Kasi it is in your memorandum po na on Memorandum Circular number 1, Section 6. So, yun lang po, Mr. Chair, at maraming salamat po sa ating ombudsman.
Mga facts, mga realities na dinadaanan namin na hindi na-appreciate itong mga nagre-rate sa amin. Ang tinitingnan lang po yung conviction rate. Sana po wag yung conviction rate. Dahil kahit ano pong sabihin namin, kahit i-assign ko dyan ang isang napakagaling na abogado, kumuha pa ho kami ng isang private lawyer na napakagaling, kung iba po ang pananaw ng husgado, wala kaming magagawa. Sana husgahan kami sa aming disposal rate, sa number of cases that we dispose every year. Yun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meron po akong kaunting katanungan, Mr. Chair, sa ating mahal na ombudsman. But at the outset, I would like to laud the ombudsman kasi siya lang po ang agency na nagsasabi he can live with his budget. Wala pa po akong naririnig na head of agency, head of department, na nagsasabi he will live with the budget given him by the government. So, congratulations po, Ombudsman Samuel Martires. Now, the COA at saka yung Ombudsman, they are supposed to be the guardians or the agencies primordially responsible for our anti-corruption operations insofar as our government is concerned. Sana po magkaroon po ng cooperation yung COA at saka Ombudsman kasi kailangan po silang mag-coordinate para po dun sa mga kaso na dapat ma-file sa korte. Because I agree with the Ombudsman when he stated na yung endemic na po ang corruption. Why? Because in the Corruption Perception Index, among 6 ASEAN nations, tayo po ang pang-anim eh. Where Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia are above us insofar as Corruption Perception Index is concerned. Nandun po tayo sa huli. Now, may I ask the Ombudsman, bakit po yung, insofar as your case statistics are concerned, from 2020, your conviction rate was 61.2%. It went down to, in 2022, to 26.5%. May I know what caused this drop insofar as your conviction rate is concerned, Mr. Chair?
Your Honor, ito po yung sinasabi ko kanina, the unfair evaluation of the Office of the Ombudsman, where our performance is based on the conviction rate. The Office of the Ombudsman functions as a prosecutor and not as a judge. Whatever findings we have, insofar as we are concerned, there is probable cause. Insofar as we are concerned, our case is strong. The only problem is, pagdadating po sa husgado, iba po ang pananaw ng huwes, whether with the Sandigan Bayan or with the lower court. So, I reiterate that we should not be judged on the number of convictions that we have. Hindi naman kami pwedeng maging investigador, a prosecutor, and a judge all at the same time. So we stop at the role of being a prosecutor, investigator, and a prosecutor. So ito lang po ang hinihiling ko, not only in Congress, but also with those who would rate the Office of the Ombudsman, especially Transparency International, some agencies of the United Nations. Wag naman kami sasabihin, i-rate kami on the basis of our performance as conviction sa court. Hindi ho kami ang husgado eh. Kami ay prosecutor. We cannot tell the justices of the Sandigan Bayan or the judge of the Regional Trial Court, i-convict ninyo. Of course, we cannot do that. In much the same way, not if we secure conviction from the Sandigan Bayan, the accused goes up to the Supreme Court, ibang pananaw ng Supreme Court, reverses the Sandigan Bayan, and convicts the accused. Marami yung ganyan eh, or acquits the accused. So, I find it so unfair that the Office of the Ombudsman or our fight against corruption is based on the number of convictions. Ano na lang ho ang nangyari sa mga pinaghirapan, pinagpawisang mga investigasyon sa mga kaso, where we even go to the extent of going to Patikul. We go to the extent of, going to, in fact, one of my prosecutors, one of my investigators has to resign. He was threatened by a mayor in Region 6. Nanghihingi po siya ng mga dokumento, sinigawan siya ng hindi niya alam na yun ang mayor. Tinanong siya, sino ka? Dahil hindi niya kilala, sumagot din siya, sino ka rin ba? So, from that time on, he was threatened by the mayor. He has to resign, and he's now in Canada. So ito yung mga facts, mga realities na dinadaanan namin na hindi na-appreciate itong mga nagre-rate sa amin. Ang tinitingnan lang po yung conviction rate. Sana po wag yung conviction rate. Dahil kahit ano pong sabihin namin, kahit assign ko dyan ang isang napakagaling na abogado, kumuha pa ho kami ng isang private lawyer na napakagaling, kung iba po ang pananaw ng husgado, wala kaming magagawa. Sana husgan kami sa aming disposal rate, sa number of cases that we dispose every year. Yun lang po, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hindi ko naman po hinuhusgahan yung conviction rate ng Kwan. I just read the statistics insofar as your case statistics are concerned. But if we look at your evaluation rate, it's from 2020, it's 52.5%. It rose to 80.1% in 2022. Kita po naman dito sa statistics na ito. Kaya lang po nagiging curious po ako sa pagtatanong kung bakit ganito. So I find your answer logical, sir. So I will go to the next issue, which is your budget.
Sir, excuse me po. Ipagpaumanin po ninyo, pero I'm not pointing an accusing finger. Nakasanayan pong gawin ng mga tao sa ombudsman na gumawa ng ganiting report na inilalagay yung conviction rate. Ayoko na lang pong baguhin yon, baka magmukhang kontrabida po ako sa mga predecessors ko. Maraming pong salamat.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if we look at the budget of the ombudsman, its cost structure would be 3.4 billion for general administration and support, which it's because of their PS, and 30.2% or 1.5 billion for operations. Now, kung titingnan po natin yung operations budget nila, the bulk would go to anti-corruption investigation program. The second one would be anti-corruption enforcement program, and the third one would be corruption prevention program, which would take 6.4% of their operations budget, and 84.3 million for Ombudsman Public Assistance Program. May I just ask, Mr. Chair, bakit po yung prevention aspect dito ay mas maliit po ang budget kaysa dun sa anti-corruption investigation program at saka anti-corruption enforcement program? Hindi po pa dapat mas maganda yung gastusan na lang po natin ng mas malaki yung ating prevention, kasi we are preventing the commission of corrupt practices. Kung titingnan po natin, parang ang emphasis natin is after the fact, hindi po yung prevention aspect, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, yung pong prevention program ng Ombudsman, this pertains po sa mga seminars o training programs na ginagawa namin sa kabataan and some various government offices. Para lang po sabihin sa kanila ano ng mga batas tungkol sa corruption o anti-corruption. Kaya medyo maliit lang po ang budget namin kasi ang ginagastusan lang naman po doon yung materials at saka pagkain. hindi na po kami nagbabayad ng mga resource persons dahil mayroon na po kami sariling resource persons within the office. So kaya medyo maliit lang po ang budget para doon.
Thank you. Would you agree with me, Mr. Chair, that we should increase the budget for corruption prevention? Kasi yun po ang kailangan natin i-prevent natin. Hindi po yung we act after the fact. Yun po yung aking punto lang. If I ask the personal opinion of the Honorable Ombudsman, would he agree to this?
Your Honor, 1,001% I agree with you.
Marami pong salamat, Your Honor, and Mr. Chair, marami pong salamat. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ako.
Salamat.